So you are doing some research here.
Yeah, so Cam the intern
Got his own podcast.
got his own podcast, but it looks good.
Looks good. Logos, good
Maybe
graphics.
it sounds good too.
Oh, Cam, hardworking kid.
Cam?
Yeah.
Every day that kid's stock goes up a little
Doesn't
bit.
it?
A little bit.
Ryan, her three on the way. It's good off the backboard and in. Murray, what a take by Tucker. Jones, another steal. Spin on Caldwell, and the layup's good.
I would like to see you hold a mirror up to yourself and interview yourself. As good as this was, it could only be better if it was all you.
Tuning in, I was a fan. I was like, man, let's do it.
Cam, thanks so much for having me on. I'm happy to be here.
Joined today for the first time, Cam Isimone. Gallagher's going to have to shoot it from beyond the arc. And it's good! Jacobs for three. He got it! My goodness, what a shooting performance by
For me,
Jacobs.
I think Cam's corner is great.
Tune in to Cam's Corner.
This kid's going to make it. He's going to make it here.
All right, and we are back, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Cam's Corner. Today, joining me, another Rhode Island native like myself. I always love talking with guys that are from where I'm from. He's currently entering this year's NFL draft and was a former defensive back at Merrimack. Also attended Bishop Hendricken High School. Anthony Witherstone. Anthony, thank you for taking the time to join me, man.
My pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And I always ask people right off the bat: is this your podcast debut?
Yeah, this is my podcast debut. I've done like media interviews for like my team in Northeast Conference and stuff like that. But in terms of a podcast, yeah, it's my first one.
Let's go. Happy to be the first, man. And I always start off the podcast as well, asking people and players, coaches, whoever that is, where they found that passion and that love for what they do. Obviously, knowing that you're from Warwick, Rhode Island, being as close as Tom and Nick as you are, like my boys from back home as well. I've seen a few like your games earlier in your career, but just dating back to like that young childhood, when did the game of football get introduced to you, and how did you find a love for it?
I started playing football around 5 years old. He's a big Pats fan, and so is my mom. They're actually not from the United States, so it's something new to them. I feel like that's something that they introduced to me at a young age, and they really loved it. So they had me in flag football for Warwick Pal Patriots. I started at 5 years old, scored that first touchdown on like a little double reverse playing flag football, high seven in the end zone. And ever since I got that feeling, I just loved football and had an obsession for it and wanted to keep on playing.
Yeah, for sure. And, what could you tell from an early age, what your game was evolving to? What positions were you gravitating towards, and, what aspects of your game did you seem like you were like better at?
Yeah. I want to be a running back. I played running back my whole life. I want to be like Reggie Bush, Adrian Peterson, all those guys growing up. I'd watch all those highlights and just want to get in the end zone, be a playmaker. So those guys basically had the biggest influence at a young age because I want to be like those guys on TV and all that. So yeah, that's where I found that passion.
Yeah, and before heading into high school, what was that transition process like? Because I know you said you wanted to be a running back, and obviously, of course, you played defense most of your career. But again, I'm sure it involved a lot of camps, at the middle school level and things like that. But how did you decide on Hendricken, and how did that process go from there?
So in middle school, I actually moved to North Providence over to my dad, and I played for the North Providence Jets for 2 years. Had some success there. Played with some great players, great teammates, and it was the coaches there that pushed me to play at Hendricken. I ended up going to a private middle school at St. Thomas Regional in Providence, right near Rhode Island College, North Providence line. And Paul Denise, he was a financial director at Hendricken at the time, and I remember he came in my 8th grade year for the little open house and showed us everything about Hendricken, and he put on a video of Will Blackman, and he was on the Packers, and he showed us a video of him scoring a punt return on a touchdown. And I went up to him right after that. I was like, I want to go to Hendricken. I want to play football, and I want to be like that guy up there. So
yeah, wow. I mean, that's definitely like something like inspiring to look at, in 8th grade coming in as a freshman. And, kind of segues into my next question about like the difference in like the style of play, like, from that middle school level into your freshman year. Like, what did you see your freshman year that you didn't in the past? And like, how did you adjust to, the positions? Like, what did you start at? Were you always a running back? Were you defense? Like, how did that first year go?
The first year was pretty good. I learned very quickly that there's a whole bunch of athletes in Rhode Island that are just as good as me. I mean, I wanted to be running back, and then I came in, I saw Quiddy Pay was right there. So he got that starting job. And then also a fellow player of mine at Merrimack and Hendricken, Matt DeTondo, he was playing running back as well. So it was like a little rotation there, but I fell towards like a 2 and a 3. I wasn't discouraged by that because then I knew I could play defensive back as well. So as freshman football, I was just mainly a corner playing cornerback on defensive side of the ball, and then doing some little returns on special teams. So That's where I first started playing corner, like all throughout high school. Basically, I didn't really play that much on the offensive side of the ball. A little bit of slot growing up in junior and senior year, but mainly freshman years when I just honed in on playing cornerback.
Yeah, and you talk about Quiddy as well, being one of your teammates very early on, and talk about like more teammates that you had over the years, and like who you got close to, and who was able to help you become a better player on the field.
Man, it's crazy because now that I think about it, I played with so many great players at Hendricken. I remember my freshman year looking up to Lee Moses. He went on to play at UMass Amherst, and then had opportunities at Arizona Cardinals for rookie mini camp. Played alongside Quiddy as well, Xavier Truss, all those big name guys. And then my senior class as well. We had, I think, around 7-8 guys go to Division I schools eventually with Nick Martino, Andrew Hopgood, Chris Hindle. So yeah, I played with a whole bunch of guys and played against a whole bunch of guys onward in college level as well.
Yeah, for sure. And, obviously, there was a bunch of championships for you guys. I believe you had 3 over the course of your years at Hendricken. And, obviously, like I said, being with, as close as I am with Nick and Tom, I've seen a few of those. I've been able to be, at those games, and that those moments, seem very surreal on the moment, in those moments on the field. And, just talk about like your success, like what it was like over the years being a part of those teams, and like how you were able to contribute.
Yeah, so I just accepted my role early on. I just wanted on the field as early as possible. So when I was a sophomore, I was at the little summer workouts trying to go on the 7-on-7 teams, and I went from older guys like Lee and Power King and all those guys. Once those guys graduated, I knew how to step up and be a bigger role in that defense and try to establish myself as a lockdown corner. So at Hendricken, it was just weird because we didn't lose that many games. So it was kind of, we had to play that fine line of trying to motivate each other and trying to find more. So I think at Hendricken, I only lost 2 games, which was my freshman year, and then sophomore year, we lost a close one to LaSalle at Hendricken. And from there on, we kept on winning. But there's a certain standard set. There would be games where we'd blow an opponent out, and Coach Croft would still be on us and telling us all the things that we did bad. And there was no easy ride at Hendricken. I mean, if it was a close game, it was kind of unexpected, and we treated it like a loss. So I think that was good for me in my development because I knew there's always a certain point that we could always do more and we can always do better. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned like again, like all the success you've had, like so many winning seasons, barely really losing. I mean, obviously there's a lot of memorable moments that come with that. If you can think of like a few or something that really sticks in your head to this day, like one of your most memorable moments playing for Hendricken.
I'd probably say one of the most memorable moments is junior year. We played at LaSalle. That game was it was packed. I remember it was sold out. I remember my dad got there late and he was recording from outside the gate and stuff. We ended up beating them pretty good. That was a team, that LaSalle team had a lot of hype going in. They had a lot of great players and like CJ Waite, Avian Pay, and all those top guys. And the media made it sound good their year. So we took that kind of personally, went into their house and beat them up pretty good. Ended up getting a punt return, and it was on the front of the Projo. So back then that was big for me because that was the most publicity I ever gotten, seeing myself on the front cover of Providence Journal. So yeah, I'd say that was the most memorable. And then all the championships, obviously, and just enjoying that moment with our brothers that we put so much work in. And every championship isn't easy. So being able to realize that success and go through it is something that I always memorize and have all these plaques up, and I still look back at them and remember all those memories from those teams.
Yeah, for sure. And you talk about, like that publicity, like you being on the front cover of the Projo and everything. That was kind of like your first taste of that media. And we'll get into that more again with Merrimack, how you were able to, transition into the, media and the press and all that kind of stuff like that. But as far as like your favorite part of playing at Hendricken, outside of, obviously the championships and those winning seasons are always memorable, like you mentioned, but something else that you can think of that, that was your favorite part, of being a part of Hendricken.
Just the bond, the brotherhood. I mean, I've met so many great people and built so many great connections through Hendricken. So that's another part of me that I always take and I'm proud and thankful of for going there. Another memorable moment is I also was a volleyball player at Hendricken and was 2-time All-Stater there. So I enjoyed that. And that was something that I just picked up alongside just playing in gym class. And then I developed a quick passion for that. So building connections in both volleyball and football and Hendricken as a whole, as a community, is something that I'm very grateful for.
Did you ever think of playing both sports at the college level, or was it just mainly football, just getting your name out there for that?
A little bit. I played one club year in volleyball. After my junior year, I had a pretty good season, and then it was just a different whole new beast once I started playing club because there's guys that are just 6'4", 6'5",
Yeah.
just spiking the ball on you. And then that's when I realized quick, I was like, nah, I'm just gonna stick to football and stick to what I've known and grown into. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And like we said, 3 state championships over the years at Hendricken, and then that summer comes after your senior year. I always love to ask athletes what that process is like going into the college scene, like what was the hype around your name as far as, college recruitment during your high school years, and what really made you commit to Merrimack? Like what was the focal point on committing there?
Yeah. Coming out of high school, I didn't really have that much attention. I mean, there was a lot of D3 schools around the area, like the South Virginians, UMass Dartmouth, and all those great schools around. I only went on 3 visits, and that was to URI, Merrimack, and then Assumption College at the time. I actually didn't end up getting no offers from any of those schools. I was offered a PWO from URI, and then by the time I got to Merrimack, they're a D2 at the time, so their scholarship money was a lot less. So they didn't have that much money, so they offered me another PWO spot and enroll as a regular student. And when I went on my visit, I just felt the love there, and it was a close-knit family. It wasn't too far, it wasn't too close. And I saw they were making some great improvements on campus, and they pitched out the idea that they might be moving up to Division I in my time there. So I just loved it there. I mean, the coach, he never treated me like a walk-on. I mean, he said I'll have the opportunity to play, but he was pretty honest with me. He said it's gonna be a lot of work. I mean, so don't get discouraged, and then just keep on going. And so I stuck with it, and it played out pretty well for me. So
yeah, like you said, yeah, for sure. Like you said, you were a preferred walk-on, coming in. And my main question that I really wanted to ask you was, how did you, get up in the depth chart? Like, how did you, really work your way up in that over the years? And did that come like quick, or was it kind of like a process where like, it took about a year and then you kind of had to, work your way in?
Yeah, it was, I'd say a little bit of both. It was a process, and it did come up pretty quick. I mean, I looked at the depth chart. My first practice, I was at the bottom of 8 corners. So I knew I had to find a quick way to get on the field. So I was going into practices during that camp, only getting like 2 reps a team period. So throughout that whole day, I'm just doing individual drills. I had to focus on the one-on-ones because I knew that's when I could separate myself and show them I can play in our man-to-man defense. So by the 5th game of my freshman year, I was able to get into a game. And then it was actually that next week, in the hotel lobby of breakfast, my coach told me on game day, he was like, "You're going to start." And I was like, okay. So I ended up playing the last 4 games of my freshman year. Had a little bit of injuries going into my sophomore year, so I missed that out. And then COVID happened, and then that's when I really got better. I mean, I was able to just focus on the stuff that I knew I had to get better in order to play on that next level. So COVID happened, and that's when I saw that next big jump that I need. So
yeah, and going back again to that freshman year where you were, again, you said like 8 corners down in the depth chart, and then you got a few more reps in, and then coach says, "All right, you're going to start today." What was that feeling like once you got that news, and your first moment stepping onto the field before getting the start, but getting into your first game? Like, what was that moment like for you?
Getting to my first, I mean, I didn't play any corner reps, but I was able to break the depth chart on special teams. So I was out there on kickoff, kick return, and punt return. So, I mean, that was the ticket to the field, is making an impact on special teams, because, I mean, not a lot of people take that seriously. So as a freshman coming in and showing that I'm doing that, it's not just, it's my only play. So I'm going to go 100% in that. So that, when I got out on that field, that first kickoff, and I ran down the field, I didn't even make a play. It might have been like a touchback or something, but it just felt great. It was like, all right, I'm here now, and let's keep on going. So after that, I was able to change that special teams role and then break the starting lineup. So.
Right. And like I asked you before, from the middle school to high school level, how much of a difference did you see from high school to now college? Once you started playing a little bit more after that freshman year and you really got like true reps, like what did you see as far as, pace of the game, how the game is played again, like the style of the game, anything different in your eyes from that perspective?
Yeah, for me, I mean, it took a while for me to adjust to the speed. the speed of the game, definitely. I mean, a lot of the receivers are a lot faster, a lot bigger, a lot quicker. And they have a great connection with the quarterbacks as well. I saw a lot of back shoulder balls, which is something that you don't see a lot in high school football, especially when I was playing in Rhode Island. I'd say at least 2-3 years to get used to be fully confident and comfortable at that speed.
Yeah, and you mentioned your sophomore year too. You had an injury, so you didn't have, the capability of playing that season. But, what was that injury and what happened? What caused it? And, what was that process like?
Yeah, so it happened about 2 days before our first game. We were doing one-on-ones, and it was just freak accident. I was just breaking on the ball, trying to dive to it, and had a fracture in my left ankle. I ended up sitting out that whole year, and then just try to find a way to turn that negative into a positive. So I got a whole lot stronger in my upper body, and then that's when I first realized that you have to take into account of being a whole athlete, which comes to nutrition, your rehab, and strength and conditioning. So after that, I realized that I needed to do extra stuff like preventive wise with prehab in order to stop those little injuries from happening. And that's when I enjoyed it and like learned that process of rehab, because I never got hurt before that.
Yeah, how did that next year start off for you? Like, were you getting the minutes you thought you deserved, and like, was it kind of like, regaining what you had your freshman year?
Yeah, I was trying to. A lot of it was just knocking off the rust. I was into like a nickel and dime role, so I was in some sub packages, and then I was starting on all special teams as well. But I knew that where I was as an athlete wasn't top of the line, so I didn't feel deserving on my part in order to be a starter at that point. So I knew I had some work to do.
Yeah, and then you talked about it earlier too about how COVID hit, during that in the next year, and everything like that. How hard was that for you as an athlete, coming up off an injury and then trying to regain that, stability and the player that you were before the injury and everything like that, and then COVID hits. Like, what was that? What was your mindset like at that time?
It was just tough because as an athlete, I just wanted to play football and just getting back to normal routines. But I think that was a blessing in disguise as well, because like I said earlier, I was able to really focus on all the little things that I was missing in my training. So that's when I made the biggest jump and then unlocking more potential. So yeah.
Yeah, and what would you say the hardest part of your journey has been, so far throughout your playing career?
The hardest part I feel like is just doing what you've been doing and staying consistent with the work. Because as an athlete, it's a little tough because you are working, I mean, whole year round. So in order to keep on that young drive and passion that you had as a young child, I mean, it gets tough when you get older, but then there's also things further down the line that you can see and picture yourself as doing. So I'd say the toughest part was just going through all that adversity and just trying to keep on telling yourself to keep on going, and you have dreams and goals, so just keep on working for them.
Yeah, definitely. And, the last season that you had at Merrimack, or one of the last seasons you had, third on the team in pass breakups, 20 solo tackles, 27 total tackles, you know what I mean? And a pair of interceptions. The game that you bring to the table is very flashy, very, quick. And, those numbers, that comes with preparation and hard work, like you were mentioning. But as far as like player comparison, I wanted to know, I know looking at, doing a little research, I know Darrelle Revis is your favorite corner. I wanted to know if you would, have a player that you would compare your game to, you know what I mean, and such like that. And if it wasn't Darrelle Revis, like, who would it be?
So I watch a whole bunch of football. I have like this weird obsession with it, but I like to look at all like the bigger, longer stature cornerbacks like Pat Surtain, Jalen Ramsey, J.C. Horn, all those guys. And the thing that stood out to me with Darrelle Revis was just because he was just a lockdown corner. I mean, he was going and compete, and that compete level is something that's very prideful in me. And I just like to go out there and compete and just show that I'm the best one on the field. So I like to take from a lot of them, but if I had to compare myself to one, I actually honestly couldn't tell you, but it'd be more of a mold of a man corner that just likes to travel and plays guys man to man across the board.
Yeah, and have you ever had any interactions with like NFL players and after meeting them, like once you meet them in those moments, you're like, all right, this is definitely what I want to do with the rest of my life, like play football and stuff like that. I mean, I know you mentioned Will Blackman with the introduction to Hendricken, but anything else like outside of that?
Not that much. I mean, there's a bunch of professional guys that I've played alongside with and trained with in Rhode Island, like Tynell Cooper and Joseph Putu. They're in the USFL and CFL, and then obviously my good friend Quiddy's in the NFL as well. Kenny Yabo, I played with him in North Providence Jets. So I mean, there's a bunch of guys that are just in our backyard that got to that next level, and I'm trying to be just like them.
Yeah, and like I was mentioning before about like the numbers that you had in the previous years, like what do those numbers mean to you? What do those accolades mean to you at the end of the day? Looking back at it.
Looking back at it, I like to see them, but the biggest thing for me is I just like to see good consistent play and watch myself on tape and be comfortable and see myself on tape and be like, wow, that's how I want to play. So the numbers are cool and all that, but then there's also, as a cornerback, there's times where you might not get a ball thrown at you, so they could be deceiving as well. So game film to me and how you're playing and making plays at the biggest moments is what means the most to me.
Right, and like going along, your career path, your last season just happened. And like I mentioned at the beginning, like how close I am with Nick and Tom Camel, you were able to share the field with them in a matchup against Stonehill. You guys were now, Division I teams and programs and stuff like that. What was it like to, collab with them on the field and be able to play with them one last time, or up against them one last time?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I remember the first time I saw Nick and Tom on the field, I was trying to tackle Nick, and then Tom was running down on special teams. I also saw Cam Alves as well. I was matched up with him a couple of times, and great player as well. And that was the guy that I faced majorly, and it felt pretty cool because during COVID, around that COVID time, we're doing a lot of work together and doing one-on-one. So to finally put on the pads and play and compete against a guy like Cam and Tom and Nick, all those guys with those Rhode Island connections, it felt good.
Yeah, and how'd that season pan out for you guys? What was it like to give a final farewell to your team?
I mean, I was honored to be voted a team captain, which meant a whole lot to me. That they entrusted me in my leadership, and all my teammates showed me a lot in learning how to be a leader and all that. But we ended up finishing 8-3. We were 6-1 in conference, and ended up we're undefeated in conference to the last game, so it was actually our championship. And we tied the best record in Merrimack history for football. So to go out as senior and as a captain and see all the work that we've done in the past finally get rewarded on our way out, I felt very great, and I was glad to see that and be a part of it.
Yeah, most definitely. And now that brings us to the current day, which is coming up soon. The NFL draft. What have these last few months been in preparation for the draft? Getting yourself in the best physical form and everything like that, mindset, everything that goes along with it. What has that process been like for you so far?
Yeah, I mean, everything's been great. I mean, I've been overly focused on task at hand, which is the pro day at the end of March. So we've just been training since the beginning of the year, basically. I'm with Ethos Sports Performance. It's ran by Wayne Gray and Tim Swenson down in Warwick, Rhode Island. We work out of Team Rockstar Gym. So I've been working with Wayne since I was 14 years old. He was my second. I was his second client, basically. So he's seen the jump from me as a little kid to where I'm right now. So I'm just sticking with the main thing, sticking with him. So we've been working since January and taking a whole lot of reps, just focusing on the pro agility, 40-yard dash, getting stronger, bench press, broad jump, vertical jump, all that stuff. So just focusing on getting stronger, bigger, and faster. And yeah, I mean, just keep on going.
Yeah, what's been going through your head kind of off the field and off those like workouts? Like do you ever think about like what it would be like if your name's called on draft day, or what, if you're signed to a team? Like what is that? What's your like headspace kind of been like these past few months?
My headspace actually just been keeping it day by day. So keeping it day by day, not realizing or focusing on the end result, just keep on day and day and building up to that day. Because I want to squeeze out every opportunity I have in training, just so I can look back and say that I have no regrets in my training and what I've done. But yeah, it is cool to think about of where my life could be in a couple months. But I mean, I also have to understand it's a process and it's a tough one. So just keeping my head straight and staying in the lane and staying focused is what I've been prioritizing.
Yeah, for sure. And have you been, in contact with Quiddy and the guys that at the professional level to, kind of figure out, more ways to get your name out there and more ways to get better just as a player?
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to former teammates. Merrimack, we've had a bunch of teammates play on a professional level. So those guys have been a great help to me. And then, yeah, I've talked to Quiddy as well and all the other guys that I mentioned earlier. They just tell me to keep on going, keep grinding. It's a tough process mentally and physically, but the rewards are what is pretty good as well. So just what they say is basically the same thing. Stay true to yourself and keep on going, and we'll see.
Definitely, Anthony. I appreciate you hopping on the podcast. That kind of wraps up all the questions I had for you. I just wanted to get your final thoughts on what you thought of Cam's Corner and who might you want to see in the future as a guest. I've been trying to get Quiddy. I know that was a huge process during the season, but who might you want to see come alongside, and what you think of the podcast?
I loved it, man. I mean, keep doing your thing, especially from Rhode Island. I always support the guys coming from Rhode Island doing little things like this. So actually big things like this. So keep on doing what you're doing. I've seen that you've had a bunch of the people that I was going to ask to get on the podcast in the past, like Jamie DeCesare from Merrimack, Tom and Nick, Angel Sanchez. So yeah, I mean, I guess Quiddy Pay will be the next big one to get on here.
Yeah, definitely got to be in talks and try to get that done. But like I said, this episode will be out next week. I'll be in contact with you, and I'll let you know when it's all out, so you can share it if you want. Share it to your family, your friends, and everybody out there on social media following along on your journey. All right, man. I appreciate it. I'll be in contact, and yeah, we'll be in touch for sure.
Okay, thank you.
No problem, man.